Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Corey, better known as the Seaman, and I want to welcome you to another edition of the Seaman's Cinema Sit-Down. Oh, it is very dark. It is very early on a Wednesday morning, and that means there's only one thing, at least for me, to be talking about at this hour. I mean, if you can't tell by my Jedi robe, then what are you doing here, man? Like, I try to make it as obvious as I possibly can about what I'm talking about when I'm talking about things. I kid. But if you don't know what we're talking about, why don't you pull up a chair, man? Take a seat. We are getting ready to dive in spoiler-free into part 5 of Obi Wan Kenobi. And I tell you, man, I love everything about this show, except its length. Its length just continues to really kind of ding me. And this week, like, I think we get a really strong episode that runs probably, what was it, 43, like just under 40. I tell you, man, like, as good as this episode is, it could have been a lot better if you could have shown a few more things and told a few less things, you know what I mean? And it's the unfortunate thing with Disney Plus, and I hope one day they start to understand that, like, people like hour-long television, and you can do a lot better storytelling when you have a full hour to do things. But, that being said, what they accomplish and do this week is pretty damn awesome. And it is dark and very early on a Wednesday because I haven't had a chance to do anything but watch the episode. Our good friend Britt, feeling a little under the weather this morning, so watch the episode solo. You'll get my reactions and then our spoiler discussion when Britt joins me later on in the day. Hopefully, she said feeling a little bit better after some extra sleep, which I can't blame her for. So she'll be around for the spoiler talk, just unable to see her reactions. But trust me, you're going to get plenty of reactions from this guy, because, like I said, man, this episode does some bad things. And it's one of those, like, oh man, I so just want to talk spoilers. And it's like, pause yourself, Corey, and don't talk spoilers. But I was really interested to see what we were going to get this week after Joby Harold, I believe it was in Vanity Fair, had an article come out. And one of the reasons for the article, amongst, talking about other things like that village sequence, apparently was a lot worse in the original take. Like, Vader killing lots of people, kind of like the way he was taking out all those people in Rogue One. That was the comparison that they kind of said. I was like, that would have been super badass. To have gone someplace like that. And while we don't get it, it's, like, cool to find out that, like, they're thinking that way. Because that's the type of stuff that you should be getting from Vader. And it was, like, interesting to kind of read that, but then also kind of disappointing that, like, Harold has gotten so much, like, he's gotten a lot of negativity because of certain elements of the show that, like, without directly spoiling things, he kind of had to, like, answer this kind of looming question that I think many of us intelligent and well-informed Star Wars fans are like, oh man, we know what they're doing. Like, things are gonna work out just fine. And, like, that's essentially what Joby Harold kind of had to say. Like, canon is important to Star Wars, and certainly to Dave Filoni. And Rebels canon, in particular, is very important. And, like, it was just kind of, like, disappointing. Like, you got 2 episodes left, and your fan base, instead of just being, like, overjoyed in the things that we have seen in this show, are, like, just a section of them are harping on some of the potential canon issues that, like, your writer basically has to come out and be like, stop worrying. We're not going to do anything that's going to ruin things. So I was really interested to see what we would get this week following that type of an interview. And, I mean, we get, for me, the second best episode of the season. And we get phenomenal Obi-Wan stuff. Ewan McGregor just continues to blow me away with what he's doing performance-wise. I mean, it's one of these things where both guys, him and Hayden, and we'll talk about Hayden in a sec, but, like, being older and being more seasoned is really enhancing their performances as these characters. And, I mean, you get I mean, just all season long, you've just been getting great stuff from Ewan McGregor, and the things that we get for Obi-Wan in this episode, and what he's dealing with, and you know what's where he's coming from a strategist standpoint, right? Like, while I think it feels like we leveled Obi-Wan up a little quick because we're not getting full hour-long episodes. It's been cool to see him kind of get back into his groove, and while he's getting back into his groove with the lightsaber and with the Force, you're also seeing the strategist come out more, and watching how him and Anakin, in particular, specifically in this episode, are just moving chess pieces around as they kind of hone in on each other, is a lot of fun to watch. And then when you're talking Hayden, I mean, I've been saying it all season, like, having him on set and having him in the suit means a lot, I think, to Hayden and to Star Wars fans. But he brings a lot, you know. The fact that he is a more seasoned actor since Star Wars, and, you know, while he maybe hasn't done as much stuff as one might think after a Star Wars run, like, being in the profession longer and being more of a veteran, you know, at this point in his career, it enhances just the physicality and what he's doing body language wise. And, you know, we've up to this point seen his face a couple times, and even just the way that he's carrying himself when the mask isn't on, like, you can just tell that, like, the way he is informed as an actor now, or where he is as an actor now, is really informing his performance as Vader. And you know, at some point you figure we'll see him as Anakin, and you would assume that it would also really influence that, and it's in really positive ways. And it's one of those things where, like, I think you can tell, like, you know, Hayden Christensen is a better actor now than he was back then, and seeing that inform his performance, whether it's with the helmet off or just the body language when he's just being straight up Darth Vader-y, you know, it's just really fun to watch him come back to this, and I think he's doing an excellent job. And we get, I think, in particular, some of the best stuff we've gotten from Hayden in the show thus far. Things that he's dealing with, things that are being juggled in this episode, and where it's allowing both him and the legend James Earl Jones to be coming from performance-wise. Really, really great stuff for Vader in this one. Moses Ingram continues to impress me. I know she's not working for everybody, but I think she's doing really great things, and I think you get some of her best performance stuff. I mean, this episode gives some of the best performance and acting that we've gotten from some of our characters, and Moses Ingram really brings a lot to this episode. And mild spoiler, but kind of what I was hoping and feeling, she's a little bit more centric in this episode, and I dug what we got with the third sister. Leia, I mean, can you say enough great things about Vivian Lyra Blair? Like, this little girl, man, just the amount of times she's on screen and I just sit there and I go, oh my god, man, that's so spot on Leia, or that's so spot on Carrie Fisher. And what's nice here is, you know, I think we're starting to push towards, like, slightly too much of a usage of Leia in this show. And what's nice is she pulls back this episode. This episode really has a lot more to do with Vader and Obi-Wan and what's going on both externally in the story and internally with the characters. That really kind of drives this episode a little bit more. And Leia's able to take a smaller role, but even with the smaller role, like, this little girl, Vivian Lyra Blair, is just phenomenal, man. Like, I really love her performance. And like I said, it's crazy how often you just sit here and you watch her and you go, oh my god, that's so Carrie Fisher. Oh my god, that's so Leia. Like, it's amazing to see a little girl, like, get it this way. And I wonder if she had ever seen Star Wars before she got cast here, or if it was one of those things like, you know, I'm a child actor out there hustling, you know, big opportunity. I know what Star Wars is, maybe, or her parents know what Star Wars is, and maybe after getting the role watched it. But, like, if it's one of those, like, she watched it after getting the role, I would have loved to have been in the room when she was watching those movies and to see how she was taking Leia in to inform her performance. Because, like I said, there's so many Carrie Fisher moments to her. Like, she really understands the character. And like I said, even with this smaller role in this episode, you're still getting really great stuff from her. I have to apologize to Indira Varma, because I'm pretty sure in my episode 3 non-spoiler review, when I was talking about her, or maybe in one of the spoiler reviews, I definitely said Ilaria, which is her Game of Thrones character, Ilaria Sands. But Indira Varma, I love this Tala character, and shocker, like I said, we were getting some really good performances. We get some of the best stuff we've gotten from Varma in this episode. I mean, it's one of these, like, I can understand when people say, like, I don't think all the side characters have been handled phenomenally this season and in this, in this series. And that's fair. I think there's some characters that we've been introduced to or that we've met probably could have been maybe handled a little bit better. But Tala is not one of those characters. I've been very interested in what she's bringing as a character and what's going on with her and what's driving her. And just anything that we're getting with Tala is really good stuff. And Varma in particular, this episode, really bringing some heat. And bringing some of the best stuff that she's brought with Tala. So I'm loving that. O'Shea Jackson Jr., Roken. Obviously, we met him last episode. We do get to spend more time with him this episode. And minimal screen time, but again, someone who takes advantage when he gets moments to. And it's fun to watch kids of actors or musicians becoming their own, actor or musician. And, Ice Cube's kid is, while you can just see Ice Cube in him so much, very obviously they're a father-son. I love kind of watching O'Shea Jackson Jr.'s career to this point. And like I said, it's fun to see him in Star Wars, and even with a small role, taking advantage of screen time that he's given. That's really cool. And yeah, I mean, everything that we get this episode is really executed, I think, quite well by Deborah Chow. And she continues to be, I think, the most impressive thing with this show. Because what she does behind the camera, I mean, just some of the sequences, the way that she is able to enhance the story, I think some of the areas where I've kind of butted up or had some issues derives from the story, whether it's the length of the episode. There are just things I feel like that could be there, and I feel like Chow has enhanced a lot of it with the way that she'll go back and forth between places or characters or moments, and the way that she syncs things up, and just all the little tiny subtle Star Wars Easter eggs and things that she's doing. Like, I've been very, very impressed with her all season. I think Joby Harold and the writers crew, this is, I think, a good bounce back episode after last week. But again, I do think you could make this stronger if you could just show us a little bit more rather than tell us all the things that we kind of find out throughout the course of this episode. But I mean, what this episode really does well is setting up what I hope is going to be a spectacular finale next week. And I'm hoping that we get an hour worth of television, because once again, like we've seen with Marvel, I feel like there are a lot of things on our plate that need to be addressed next episode, and I like where we're at. I'm intrigued to see how we tackle this finale. But if it's short, I'm going to be really, really nervous. So please, Disney Plus, give us 1 hour long episode of Obi Wan Kenobi, especially if it's the last episode of Obi Wan Kenobi that we get. We don't come back to Ewan for anything. Like, please give us at least an hour next week and some hopefully spectacular Vader Obi-Wan stuff. It feels like we're building to it. It feels like the table's being set. I just hope that they can knock the finale out of the ballpark. They do. This show for me is going to be a massive success. So let's get the old Sea Maniacs up. As I said, this is my second favorite episode of the season. While I think there are some maybe more interesting story developments going on and plot elements in this episode than episode 3, that appearance of Vader is like, I mean, that's Rogue One level. You know what I mean? And once you get that, any other crazy stuff we get with Vader isn't going to quite have that pop, you know what I mean? So the only thing that can, I think, top what we got in episode 3 is seeing Obi-Wan be able to handle himself in a duel with Vader in Episode 6. So this one not quite there, but I mean spectacular stuff for Vader, spectacular stuff for Obi-Wan. Hayden and Ewan are just knocking this show out of the ballpark. Vivian Lyra Blair continues to impress, even with minimized screen time this episode. Same for a bunch of our smaller characters, people like Tala, Roken, but everyone that gets small amounts of screen time really capitalize on what they have. And you get another really rock solid, maybe the best performance thus far from Moses Ingram. And where they take the third sister's story this week was very satisfying for me, at least. So I'm going to go 4.8. Not quite a 5. I think our last 5 is behind a red and a blue saber coming together next week. But this episode, I think, did a lot of really nice things to tee that up. And it did some really, really interesting and cool things from the Vader Obi-Wan perspectives. So I'm really, really excited for next week. I've really enjoyed this show thoroughly to this point. Length does continue to worry me, and if we get a shorter episode, kind of like with what we got with Moon Knight, where all of a sudden it's like the shortest episode is going to be the finale, I feel like we got a lot of things to address. I'm hoping that that's not the case here. I feel like we've got things right where we need them to be. You just take the time to finish this thing out. This is going to be a slam dunk in the world of Star Wars. So there you go, man. 4.8 for the C-Man. I'm all done. If I say anything else, I'm going to spoil something. I don't want to spoil anything about this episode because there's some really cool stuff going on. So I'm done. Now it's your turn, man. I want to know what you're thinking. Where does this episode fall for you? What things were working? Don't spoil them. But, you know, was it the Vader storyline stuff? Was it the Obi-Wan stuff? The third sister? How are you feeling about our supporting characters, whether it be Tala or Roken, or Leia? Anything that you're thinking there, let us know what was working or not working. How's the length impacting you when you're watching these episodes? Did you think this was a good bounce back this week? Anything you got, man. Keep it spoiler free. But if it's about Obi-Wan Kenobi, and specifically Part 5, put it down below in the comment section. Look forward to talking to you down there. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you do, you want to come hang out with the C-Man anytime we're talking movies, TV, trailer, reactions, you want to be here for the finale next week. Ooh, man, it's going to be a big one. I think you're going to want to be here for it. You want to show a little love and support to this guy before that finale? Well, hey, man, come join C-Maniac Nations, where you can have all the C-Man fun. And all you got to do is jump over there, hit that subscribe button, hit that little bell if you want those alerts. And until next time for the C-Man Cinema Sit Down, I've been the C-Man. I'm signing off. Peace. Oh, hey, what's going on? You must be sticking around because you're looking for more content featuring this guy. Well, guess what? You're in the right place. You can check out more videos right here and right here. And if you have and you want to come join that C-Maniac Nation, you can hit that subscribe right over there.